With these decks, when testing, I've noticed it's best to do just one thing at a time, because you can change something, one thing, and then something else breaks. So I'm going to put the original deck back into the original Phillips, and then we're just going to check that we are back to where we were. In other words, we have deck rotation but no playback. Now, I would like to see if I can actually work out how to use the oscilloscope that I've got, because for troubleshooting this kind of issue, or the kind of issues that we have with these machines, a scope is probably going to be very useful. The problem I have is I don't really have any documentation for these apart from a scanned portion of a manual that I've managed to find online, which seems to be predominantly in German. So I don't speak a huge amount of German, but I can work out some of the text, and I can use some Google Translate for the rest of it, so it's not too bad. You can sort of kind of work your way around, but it's missing, seems to certainly be missing larger portions of the manual, which is a bit frustrating, but that just seems to be how it is. Now, this is the thing with these cables here, you can tell with the fact that they're shielded, they are supplying audio and images or picture from the video heads. So you've got this section here, which I think is the head amplifier section. You've got these boards over here, particularly this one with the adjuster here, which I think this one adjusts or controls the DTF function of the video heads in the machine. So that's obviously sort of one of the unique things of V2000, is that DTF, or dynamic track following, functionality. So obviously with these you do have the motherboard or baseboard, which sits underneath, and then you've got the riser cards in there as well, which I suppose it makes replacement easier, but you get a lot of problems with contacts on the base. And also, as you can see sort of here, you might not be able to see that, but if I just tilt over a bit here, the board tends to crack at certain points. So I've managed to repair this one, but I've noticed that the Phillips seem to have gone in the same area, so it seems to be a common thing with these decks. This board that I'm taking this cable out of, that's our Syscon board, so that's out there. And we've got a number of other connectors down here that we need to remove as well. So all of these do relate to the deck. Got another shielded one here. And they're sort of contained within the cable management. So we've got one tucked over here. Now, the thing that I've learnt when working on these decks is don't spend too long working on them, because certainly in my case I've been confronted with failure after failure, and it gets to a point where it just becomes, to be honest with you, quite depressing, and you begin to question why you're bothering, which is kind of where I am at the moment. And it's kind of where I got to several years ago when I tried working on this previously, well not several years, a few years ago, when I tried working on these decks previously. I thought on this occasion, having two decks with one that worked but didn't display picture and one that displayed picture but didn't that had issues with its deck, I thought rather innocently that putting the deck into the one that displayed the picture, in this case putting the Philips deck into the Pi, would resolve the issues that I was having. But as it transpires, that's not the case. It did not resolve the problems at all. It just introduced a whole new issue where the deck would immediately shut down because the system did not think there was any kind of real rotation. And that's kind of where we are at the moment. And that's why I'm just going to reverse what I've done and then put it back to how it was. And then start troubleshooting on the Philips. Because at least on the Philips we have, or had, deck rotation. I don't know if that's going to be the case moving forward, because this will probably introduce a whole new set of problems. There we go, so that's the deck out. You can tell I've done this multiple times because that was out very quickly. And I'm going to take this out and I'm going to grab the Syscom board, because the one in the Philips, the microcontroller has gone a bit senile and it started to do very odd things. As I've said before, you shouldn't really board swap on these, so you need to make sure that the board you're swapping in is the same part number. And in the case of this Syscom board, it is. So that means I'm pretty much safe to swap it out. There we go. That is a little modification. So originally in this position there would be a battery, and what I've noticed, and I've actually managed to verify this, look on a website where the guy actually is a bit of an expert with these, is that I've actually just noticed this pin's bent here. I'm not certain that that's the cause of my problems, but it would be very interesting if it is. So let's put that back into shape. Let's get this isopropyl on those contacts. Let's actually put the deck back in again, because I am interested to know if that bent pin was the cause of my issues. So I can put it in without routing the cables particularly brilliantly. Check all the other pins are okay. Then you've got the one there which comes from the deck. So let's grab the deck again. Stick that back into service position. There we go. Let's just loosely put these back in. I'm not really going to route these in any particular way. just going to make sure that they're plugged in. That is literally what I'll be doing. So on there, this one here, this one down here. There you go. Then you've got this one onto Syscon, which is around here. There you go. Got this one which goes over here. That's in. You got this one and another large one. That's in. This one here. There you go, and then you've got these two. So shorter one, I think, it's this one here. Longer one is here. Alright, that's loosely in position. Let's kind of put this back in, making sure that we're not snagging any wires. But as I say, this is just for test purposes, so right, let's get some power onto it. And then we can see if that makes a difference. Because I've straightened out that pin, which I didn't realise had been bent. And that was probably bent when I last looked at this. So if this works, then that would be quite good. But I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's going to. However, stranger things have happened. There we go, so let's power that on. Let's do eject. Let's do cassette. Interesting, I did notice counter rotation then, so that's something. That might be just creases on the tape. Now it's stopped the counter rotation. Is that the tape that's done that? Right, let's wind it forward. And let's carefully... I'll leave that for the minute. Okay, so we've got counter rotation now. We didn't have that previously. So that single pin was causing us all of those problems. Let's play back now and see if we've got real rotation here. No real rotation in playback, so we seem to have a problem with that now. That's good. You see what I mean about you fix one fault and then another fault occurs? That seems to be my life with these machines. You fix one problem, a whole new problem becomes available to you. Right. That's the thing, you've got capstan rotation, but don't do that. Stop, please stop. Yeah, and there you go. See? It's exactly what these are like. Brilliant. Now there's no real rotation. And the Syscon has started to play up. Amazing machines. Absolutely incredible. Right. Let's try resetting. Syscon. Off. On. Rewind. Fast forward. Alright, does it even eject anymore? Alright, so that still kind of works. Let's very carefully extract the cassette. Alright, there we are. Ooh, that's nasty. Alright, there you go. So it's back in there. Right. So let's put it into fake playback mode, and you've got real rotation on both. See? So now it's in its tuning mode. Fast forward. Ow. Rewind. That noise, incidentally, where it dings or screeches, is where the brake solenoid and the pads come in contact with the reels. So let's do eject. There we go. Alright, let's just see if it's something as simple as not having this in the way. So if I kind of put this in the way of the deck and Syscon, because it could be something as simple as interference from the deck affects the Syscon, which is why this board is in place. There you go, you've now got the division. Yeah, again, there's no real rotation, and Syscon's gone weird. So that might suggest that the problem that the Philips was having was actually with its deck. So, interesting. What on the deck provides feedback for reel rotation? So this is a head drum. There is, I think, a sensor further down that controls reel rotation. Carefully get this into service position. Okay, so you got the solenoids underneath, which I changed on the Pi original deck. And these are the real motors. They do seem to be activated, possibly by those solenoids. Let's do... Yeah, you can see that one just closed. And you got reel rotation on both. So that closed. Let's see. Okay, that's opened. Let's do that again, see which one's closed and open. Both of those close. Okay, so they're all, 1, 2, 3, all closing when you hit play. Let's see what happens with a tape. So if I carefully do that, put this in, okay, so do fast forward. Interesting, none of them close. So fast forward. The brake releases, but no fast forward. And none of those relays close. So let's try that again. Rewind. Okay, so no relays close when you have a tape in. But we do have reel rotation now, so that's something. So if I eject, you can actually manually spin the reel, and you can see that go up, and can't probably see that one go down. So there is reel rotation, you can see that. If I do, let's see if I can do this. take this out. And let's see if we can see these relays close. So if I do fast forward, so fast forward, alright, let's just do a quick reset. Alright, so that isn't working anymore. Oh! Close. So watch these two. And if I stop, so close. Oh, there you go, close. Stop. Slow down here. Sorry, I'm trying to see which one of these opens and closes. So when you do play, all of them. Now we have its original fault back. How fun! Interesting. Okay, so now we've got its original fault back, so that's something. Let's see if we can get a torch into this. There we go. So let's have a look at what these are doing when you hit various buttons. So first off, let's do fast forward. So nothing from the bottom one there. Let's check these two. So fast forward. Nothing from those two. Playback. Top one. That one. Now I was sure the bottom one was going earlier. Yeah, the bottom one just goes on play. Alright, so I think the bottom one's engaged, that one's engaged, top one's engaged. So if I do stop, alright, fast forward, stop. So when you put a tape in, these 3 holes determine what state the tape is in. So let's just hold down this switch and let's press play and see what happens. Okay, so that's interesting. So very interesting. This switch could be having problems, maybe. Alright, so let's do stop. Let's do fake a tape. Yeah, there you go, look at that. So this switch is dirty because if you move it about, you sometimes get real rotation, then you don't. Right, so let us take this out. Does it come out? No, because it seems to be riveted into place, possibly. Oh no, hang on, sorry. I think it does come out. Might need a really small screwdriver. I need to actually see what type of fitting that has. This is actually one of the first things that the guide I found online actually tells you to do, is to clean all of these switches. Can't tell if that's... My eyesight is terrible, I can't tell if that is an Allen key or a Phillips. So let's try a really small Allen key. Possibly smaller than that. So that's not small enough. Sorry, not big enough. That is... Oh, hang on, that done something. Alright, okay, let's try something else. So, if we... Right, fake a tape, so down, play. Yeah, no real rotation when you press that one in. Right, so let's test the switch if we can. So resistance, I think, is probably the one we'll need. So if we set some resistance monitoring. So at the moment, because that's open, it should be infinite resistance. Close it. So let's test this one. Infinite resistance when it's open. Maybe it operates the other way. So you've got infinite, oh, hang on. Infinite resistance, no resistance. Infinite resistance. Alright, that one opens. This one, infinite resistance, still infinite resistance. Infinite resistance, no resistance. Okay. What if I pop out every single one? So when you put this in, those should just go straight through. So let's just reset and put that back in. Power it on. Eject. So every single one is popped. None of these are being pressed down. Okay. Might not be that, although that one definitely has problems. So let's see if we're getting any kind of voltage at these motors. Now we've got nothing. Now we've got no real rotation. So we're back at square one. So this is the point where I say this could start to cause me grief if I continue with it. So I'm going to put it away. Because at this precise moment, I don't know what the problem is. I don't know if it's these switches, because this one doesn't work. These two seem to work. But even popping all of the tabs out of the tape doesn't seem to make any difference. It just doesn't seem to make any difference. All of the solenoids are clipping into place, because that can be a problem with these. But now if I do that, put it into its tuning mode, absolutely zero real rotation. And this is why these can get to be very, very frustrating very, very quickly. Because it just seems to introduce new problems that you didn't realise you had previously. Now, I fully expect that when I turn this on again next time, it'll probably be absolutely fine. But that does point to a problem somewhere, probably with one of those blue capacitors that seem to go bad after a certain age. The ones at Philips seem to fit to everything. These big chunky things, and these sort of small affairs as well. Obviously that one there. The larger ones seem to be okay. It's the smaller ones that tend to play up. So I'm not really going to route anything in here. Just going to put it back into some kind of semblance of being, like so. Just make it a bit neater, and that just sort of keeps everything out of the way when I'm putting it back all in again. And we've got these that should really go behind there, but what I'll do is just tuck them into here. And tuck them well out of the way around here. There we go. That's a good place to put it. In there. Yeah, there you go. There's no... Whereas previously you could turn that and you would have the real rotation counting. We don't have anything now. Alright, let's power it down and leave it for a couple of minutes, then see if that comes back. Whilst that's doing that, I can actually test those switches again, so I don't need power on them to be able to test them. So that first one is definitely faulty. So we've got switch open, switch closed, switch open, although open and close doesn't seem to do anything on that one, so switch open. There's not full resistance on this one, so this one, let's have a look. Switch open, switch closed, switch open, switch closed, nothing. Switch open, switch closed, switch open, switch closed. So that one is faulty. Let's put the power back in again. Got any real rotation? No, still don't have any, so... yeah, still nothing. I don't know if that's a Syscon issue or a deck issue. So that was working earlier. That's why these things are just complete mystery at times. Only thing I can think of, well, not the only thing I can think of doing, I don't know what to do, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. I can't see any. There is a capacitor on the side of this, but on the side of the head drum motor, but I don't think that has anything to do with the rotation detection. There is something on the side of the head drum. What detects rotation on these? Spinning that detected rotation, so rotation is actually coming off of these spool. Very likely here, so these things here. So if I take this out, let's put this on to, would it be a voltage? Yeah, it'd probably be a voltage that would be generated. So if I earth this somewhere, trying to find somewhere that I can earth this effectively. This is why I need some of those ones that have kind of clamps on them that you can sort of clip things onto. Let's see if I can improvise. There we go, so that's improvising. Might also be doing it based on resistance. But I would guess it's more based on voltage than resistance. And this multimeter is not sensitive enough to detect that. As you see, it's all over the place when it's trying to go on 200 millivolts. It's obviously not an alternating voltage. There's no easy way to measure what's coming off of this either. Or is there? I don't think there is. Go in there. You can certainly measure on these tracks. Okay, so put power back into it. See if we get anything out of this. Alright, let's try this one. So nothing in that one. Let's try this one. Okay, there is something on that one. So if I do play, so it's this second pin in that seems to be the one that generates some kind of signal, although to be honest that's... I'm not convinced that's actually the case. Alright, let's try this reel over here. So, let's try... Nothing. Something. Alright, so second pin down from the bottom, second pin up from the top on that one. So, yeah, so second pin down, second pin up. Alright, so let's do second pin up again. Yep. Okay, so reel rotation I would say is fine because you've got a voltage increase. Then you have a decrease once that ends. I wonder if... I don't know actually, if I'm going to be honest. It could be dodgy syscon. It could be a multitude of things, to be honest with you. But we got reel rotation. It's detecting reel rotation, but that isn't actually getting to where it needs to get to in the machine. Okay, so let's be sensible about this. Let's park this for today, because if I continue with this I will get very annoyed with it. But we seem to have possibly got somewhere, I don't know. There's certainly one thing we found. We had that bent pin on the syscon board. We unbent it, we had reel rotation. Now, once the machine's warmed up, we don't. So there is obviously something probably capacitor or voltage related. It could be a syscon fault, in which case that's kind of it for the machine. Unless I replace whichever chip is causing the problems. Yeah, interesting. Let's take this out. Let's put this back down. There we go. So, I'm just going to put this back together and I'm going to call it a day with this for today. I need to do a bit more reading up on the service manual and also trying to work out why it doesn't get reel rotation after a certain time. I thought, to be honest with you, it was this switch. This switch is definitely problematic, but apart from that, I'm not sure. But as I say, I am parking this for today because they can be very frustrating. Anyway, that's it for today. If you have any ideas, let me know. probably the next thing I want to do is get a scope onto this and see if turning that does actually induce something, but I need to research how to use the scope first, so that's going to be my next thing before I do anything else with this. If anybody has links to a manual that's in English, ideally a complete manual, not just the circuit diagrams, but a complete full manual for one of these, I would definitely appreciate that. But aside from that, thank you for following me on this journey, and yeah, I'll speak to you all again soon. Thanks. Okay, so this is the original Syscon board which I've tried repairing. There's a replacement Syscon board which I've found in my collection of boards, which is from another one of these decks, another VR 2022. Let's see what happens. Let's plug it in. Oh, that's something. That's a lot better. Okay. Doesn't look like we have any real rotation. It's certainly not registering any. Let's try play. So it's not registering anything on there. So we've still got a deck problem. But Syscon's back, so that is something. Let's see what it does to a tape. Well, it chews tape, so that's something. But it rewinds and it fast forwards, but no real rotation, so that should be counting up, which it isn't doing at the moment. So if I hit play, that's not clicking into place at the end, I don't think, fully. I think we've got head drum rotation. Let's just do stop. Yeah, we do have head drum rotation. There should be another solenoid which goes off at that point to start it playing back, but it doesn't seem to be doing that at the moment. Okay, well at least we've got Syscon back and working. So what I've done is I've unsoldered the capacitor on this one and stuck it onto that one. I'm not going to touch one of these Syscon boards again, because just trying to do simple replacements of components seems to be too much for it. It just trashes it. Oh dear, what fun. But we've now got functionality back. It will fast forward, but there's no real counter. It will rewind, but no real counter. And when you hit play, you don't get the solenoid engaging. But it's back to where it was.